The Circular Economy of Rags, Li Lu's Early Years and the Compounding of Human Capital. Part 5, The Death of Mao and the New Era. September 1976. Just 6 weeks after the earthquake, Mao Zedong died. For 27 years he had been the absolute ruler of China, a godlike figure to the people. His death created a massive power vacuum. The radical Gang of Four, led by Mao's wife Jiang Qing, tried to seize power, but they were arrested in October 1976 by a coalition of moderates and military leaders. This marked the end of the Cultural Revolution. The following year, 1977, the Gaokao National College entrance exam was reinstated, allowing university admission based on academic merit rather than political background. This was the moment Li Lu's life truly changed. Let's get started with Chapter 5. One day in September, the loudspeaker, which had been silent for weeks, suddenly came to life. Now important news is to be announced. This one sentence was repeated for half an hour. People gathered on the small playground and asked each other what could have happened. Finally, a heavy voice spoke. The great leader of the Chinese people, Comrade Mao Zedong, passed away due to incurable disease in Beijing on the 9th of September, 1976. A fearful and deathly silence fell, similar to that in the aftermath of the earthquake. Then a piercing wail broke the silence and people began to cry in deep sorrow. The news didn't seem true to me. Wasn't it said that Chairman Mao would live 10,000 years? How could he die? Pause. Mao's death lands like a second earthquake, but this one collapses belief rather than buildings. For years, his immortality had been rehearsed daily through slogans, until it felt like a law of nature. When the loudspeaker finally speaks, the silence that follows isn't just shock, it's ontological confusion. If Mao can die, then certainty itself is fragile. The public wailing is not only grief for a leader, but grief for the collapse of a worldview that promised permanence in exchange for obedience. For a child who has already seen physical destruction, this is the moment when ideological ground gives way too, and reality becomes unstable in a deeper sense. Back to the book. But the grown-ups were wailing, "Oh, Chairman Mao, how could you leave us like this? What shall we do without you?" With the death of Chairman Mao, the last pillar in their hearts collapsed. The first cry broke the dam, and all the pent-up sorrow came pouring out. It was the first public expression of grief since the earthquake, and the crying lasted all day and night. Pause. This mourning is misdirected but genuine. People are crying for Mao because he is the only permitted object of grief. But what spills out is far larger. Buried terror, loss, exhaustion, and the weight of years with no safe outlet. The earthquake took bodies. Mao's death removes the last emotional scaffold holding the pain in place. For the first time, sorrow is allowed to surface without punishment, and it comes out in a flood less a tribute to a man than a collective release from enforced silence. Back to the book. A few days later, Father's work unit gathered people together on the small playground. Then Party Secretary Liu Yuding came up to the platform. He was still wrapped in bandages and wore an army cap. Now he swept the whole audience with a fierce look and said, "Comrades, Chairman Mao has passed away, but the proletarian cause will be carried on. Yesterday we received a shipment of supplies for rebuilding. Just as they arrived at the station, Wang Jian and his son stole a box of biscuits, 2 blankets, and a piece of tar paper. Now haul the counter-revolutionary Wang Jian onto the platform." 2 militiamen dragged up a short, bespectacled man with a pale face, obviously an intellectual. Secretary Liu looked at him in surprise. "All right, you go without placard because of the earthquake. You're lucky, let me warn you, Wang Jian. In 1957 you attacked the party in a frenzy and became a rightist. Remember that the Communist Party is here to stay. The communist power will never yield." Pause. This scene shows how quickly power reasserts itself after shock. While people are still grieving and rebuilding, Liu manufactures a spectacle to restore hierarchy. Accusation, humiliation, reminder of past sins. The alleged theft is almost irrelevant. What matters is producing a scapegoat to signal that surveillance and punishment are back online. By dredging up a charge from 1957, Liu makes time itself a weapon, proving that no amount of disaster, injury, or service erases political guilt. Class struggle becomes a ritual distraction, something loud and familiar to cover uncertainty and fear. Even amid ruins, the system's first instinct is not care, but control. Back to the book. Now he pointed at the audience with a sweeping gesture. Even when all you people here have turned to ashes, this power remains. It will still be a red power. Though Chairman Mao died, remember that Comrade Jiang Qing, Comrade Jiang Chunqiao are still alive. Let me tell you that we have worthy successors to keep the political power. He ended with a grotesque laugh. The next day, several new posters appeared. Down with Wang Jian. Join the fading, work hard for 3 months to rebuild the city. One day the loudspeaker again repeated, "Important news! Important news!" Then a cart approached. Lu Yuding again. "Good news," he shouted. "Good news. Our wise leader Hua Guofeng has crushed the conspiracy of the Gang of Four. Traitor Jiang Qing, traitor Jiang Chunqiao. Now the 4 of them are all in prison. Good news." Pause. This is truth reduced to choreography. Lu's speech isn't conviction. It's calibration. Power is declared eternal one day, then purified the next. With the same voice and the same certainty, yesterday's heirs become today's traitors without explanation. And no one asks why, because asking would be dangerous. What matters is not belief, but alignment. Lu's instant reversal exposes the core logic of the system. Loyalty is not to principles or people, but to momentum. Survival belongs to those who turn fastest when the signal changes. Back to the book, Lu's strident voice was heard again. "Comrades, we have instructions from above to take part in the parade to celebrate the victorious crushing of the Gang of Four. Follow me, comrades." We set out on the parade, shouting slogans. People looked like ghosts crowding together in the dark, yet there was a kind of excitement in the air. Someone threw a stone onto the cart and frightened the horse. It shied and ran, throwing Lu Yuding from the cart. Someone went over and kicked him. People ignored him and marched on shouting slogans. Everybody seemed possessed of a desire for destruction. More and more slogans celebrated the overthrow of the Gang of Four. The Kailuan coal mine produced the first ton of coal since the earthquake in honor of the great news. Pause. This is the moment when fear briefly inverts. The parade is meant to display unity and obedience, but it mutates into something feral. Once the signal changes and Lu is no longer protected by the story of power, the crowd treats him like debris. No trial, no slogans. Just a kick as the procession moves on. What's unleashed isn't justice, but release. Years of suppressed rage looking for a target that is suddenly safe to hit. The same people who marched on command now march past their fallen enforcer without a glance. Authority doesn't fall because people become brave. It falls because permission to despise it has been granted. Back to the book, later I went back to the one-story house area. Big Fool's father had started to work. Big Fool was now a hero whom everyone respected. Old Foreman had disappeared. It was said that he left Tangshan and was put in an asylum somewhere. 100 days after the earthquake, we were told to go back to school. Desks and stools were made of bricks held together with clay. Principal Bao made us practice again and again. I love our great leader, Chairman Mao. We firmly smashed the Gang of Four. Long live Chairman Hua. A fat man from the film crew shouted incessantly, "Okay, it's over." With a big smile, Principal Bao mechanically repeated, "Okay, it's over. School is over." Winter was coming. After some discussion, my family decided to build 2 more rooms. My brother and I did this job for days. Smashed at the panels, getting 2 or 3 reinforcing bars out of them every day. Bricks lay everywhere, but we had to clean the mortar off them. In 2 weeks, a brand new house stood in front of us. This was the first time our whole family had ever worked together. My father became well known in that area as an expert kang maker. I followed him around and gradually became enchanted by building the kang. I began to be proud of him. Few intellectuals could work as well as he, and even among the workers, few could match his skills. Pause. Normalcy returns, but it's hollow and selective. Heroes and villains are reassigned without explanation. Big Fool's father is rehabilitated. The old foreman simply vanishes, showing that survival depends less on merit than on timing and narrative shifts. School resumes as performance, with slogans drilled for cameras, authority mimicking itself until someone yells, "Okay, it's over." Real rebuilding happens elsewhere, in manual labor, scavenged steel, and shared effort. As the family constructs a home together, Li Lu sees his father's intelligence translated into craft, problem-solving made tangible. What was once criminalized now quietly proves indispensable. This is rehabilitation not by apology or policy, but by usefulness. Back to the book. At home one day, I happened to see a worn but fashionable little suitcase. Inside there was an elegant lining made of black velvet, packages wrapped in tissue paper. In one were a few big notebooks. In another package were notebooks with photos in them. The first photo was a young man with glasses and smooth hair wearing a white Western suit. He looked so elegant and handsome. The background of his photos looked the same as that in the postcards. Then I opened the third album. On the first page was a big banknote. There were so many zeros on it. On it was a strange foreigner with gray hair. I felt as if I had discovered some great treasure. I asked, "You've been there, haven't you?" "Yes." He said, "I studied abroad for 6 years." "How well did you study?" I had no idea what the first 20 of the country meant. "When you said you studied better than others, is it the same as you make better kang than others?" My father laughed again. "I studied as well as I make kang now." My mother turned to my father and said, "Don't say too much to the child. It's not good for him. We don't want another political incident in our family." Pause. This is the quiet restoration of lineage. The suitcase isn't just memorabilia. It's proof that the official story about his father was false. What had been framed as suspicion or shame is revealed as excellence, hidden for safety. The photos, notebooks, and foreign currency expose a suppressed past where intellect was achievement, not liability. The father's joke about studying as well as I make kang now bridges two worlds, mind and hand, theory and survival. The mother's warning shows the scar hasn't healed. Knowledge is still dangerous. But for Li Lu, something fundamental shifts. He is no longer just a survivor of chaos. He is the inheritor of competence. Identity, once fractured, quietly recomposes itself. Back to the book. That New Year's Eve, the whole family gathered together, symbol of happiness and family union. We talked the whole night. They told us about their childhood, the radio incident, his working in the mine. We were no longer frightened talking about the landlord background or my father being a spy. After that New Year's Eve, the old wall between my parents and me disappeared. From that night, I felt I had a home, a father, and mother. And I felt I had a history and a certain goal. Spring came, and with it rumors began to spread about an outbreak of cholera. Another order came to gather all the dead in one place. I took part in one reburial. First, the family of the dead went with the soldiers. They used a hook to get the shrunken body out. I saw a huge, deep hole, more than 100 meters long. A row of road rollers drove slowly over it. The weather was still chilly. The wind was blowing. I came down the hill and walked on and did not know where I was going. I decided to go to my kindergarten, which was nothing but ruins now. Then I went to my castle. Only one wall was left erect. The remnant of a slogan was still daubed here. Go all out and rebuild a new Tangshan in 3 months. I envied old Foreman because he had found his paradise. But where was my paradise? Where should I go next? Suddenly I remembered a talk with my father. You look so happy these days, father. Yes, he said, I'm happy. The National College entrance exam has resumed. It seems the world is changing. I asked, what is a college entrance exam? He said, any young person who wants to enter college has to pass an exam. It is a kind of competition. What is competition? I asked. Competition means you work hard and society will give you your reward. Our country needs science. Science is something that can change our life and make it better. How can we acquire science? He answered, that's simple. Go to college and study hard. Pause. This is the moment when continuity finally reasserts itself. Family stories restore a past that was once too dangerous to name, giving Li Lu not just parents, but a lineage and a narrative he can stand inside. Almost immediately, that stability is undercut by mass death and anonymous reburial, history reminding him how easily meaning can be erased. Walking through the ruins of his kindergarten and the remnants of the castle, he sees every former refuge reduced to debris. The question, where should I go next, is existential, not geographic. The answer arrives quietly through his father. Competition, science, study. For the first time, the future is no longer determined by slogans or fear, but by effort and intellect. The return of the Gaokao doesn't just reopen universities, it restores direction. Back to the book. Now I remembered this talk and the last sentence repeated itself constantly. I now knew what I wanted to do. I want to go to college. I had found my road to paradise. I became excited, and nervous too. As I ran back home, I kept saying to myself, I want to go to college. I want to study. And this is the end of Li Lu's childhood in the ruins. He has survived the lizards, the bullies, the earthquake, and the political terror. Now he has a destination. He will go on to study at Nanjing University, become a student leader in Tiananmen Square in 1989, escape to America, and eventually become a world-renowned investor. But the foundation of his character, the ability to survive, to observe, and to adapt, was built here, in the rubble of Tangshan. This is Avi. Like and subscribe. On to the next.